Theresa May lambasted Prime Minister Boris Johnson over his proposed changes to the Northern Ireland Protocol as she exposed a major flaw in his plan. Theresa May hit out at Prime Minister Boris Johnson as she lamented changes to the internationally binding Northern Ireland Protocol could harm the UK's global standing. Mr. Johnson is expected to outline technical amendments to the withdrawal agreement bill some analysts have suggested would allow the government to override the exit deal struck with the European Union last week. But the former Prime Minister, who saw her tenure come to an end over oppositions to her proposed arrangement for Northern Ireland last year, warned of severe consequences if the changes were to go ahead. Mrs. May told Northern Ireland Secretary Brandon Lewis, the United Kingdom government signed the withdrawal agreement with the Northern Ireland Protocol. This parliament voted for the withdrawal agreement into UK legislation. The government is now changing the operation of that agreement. Given that, how can the government reassure future international partners that the UK can be trusted to abide by the legal obligations of the agreements it signs? Mr. Lewis insisted the UK had worked with Brussels in a spirit of good faith to ensure the Northern Ireland Protocol can be implemented if a trade agreement is struck. But the Northern Ireland Secretary insisted the UK needs to ensure backup measures are in place to protect the internal market should talks with the EU fail to produce a deal. Mr. Lewis said, "We have worked with the EU in a spirit of good faith and I know that we continue to do that, both sides working in a spirit of good faith, to ensure we do implement the arrangements which uphold the fundamental principles that lie behind the protocol." Of course, our first aim continues to be to secure agreement on the protocol for the Joint Committee and the wider free trade agreement, but the withdrawal agreement and the protocol are not like other treaties. It was written on the assumption that subsequent agreements could be reached between us and the EU on the details. That is the entire purpose of the specialized Joint Committee. The Tory frontbencher continued, and we continue to believe that it is possible but, as a responsible government, we cannot allow businesses not to have certainty. The reality is the UK's internal market bill is one of the last legislative opportunities that we have to give that certainty and confidence to the people and businesses in Northern Ireland that we will deliver what we agreed in the protocol, what we outlined in our manifesto and what we set out in the command paper. The European Union has warned the Northern Ireland Protocol remains paramount to agreeing a strong trade agreement before the end of the transition period.